Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and you know what, man? I feel like I should spend some time, entertaining and educating the masses a little bit. So I saw this video from, Charlie the other day where he was talking about a bad statement from the YouTube CEO. Now, long story short, YouTube has been making some pretty wild decisions in recent time. For instance, a lot of people have been calling them out on moderation and whatnot, and YouTube was like, no, boys. Our content moderation systems are working pretty normally. We used a combination of automated systems and human reviews. I don't know where these humans are sometimes, but they basically said, yeah, it makes sense. It lines up with trends. Actually, the big increase is because there's some financial scams coming from Southeast Asia. Bro, just drop the India. You know you want to, okay? Come on now. Come on now. Give the credit where credit's due. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, to give you a quick understanding of what's been going on over here, there have been a lot of channels complaining about, AI basically taking away their jobs. And the thing is, it's pretty damn true. It's pretty damn understandable. Artificial intelligence is responsible for a lot of false flaggery that's going on. Now, obviously, I want to kind of refer you to something that I found a little bit interesting. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a slide, okay, back from 1979, I believe. This is from IBM, where they said a computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer must never make a management decision. Back in 1979, those human beings were so fucking profound. We knew that shit. And now we're letting LLMs decide, if YouTube channels can stay here or not. Now, the thing about it is, ladies and gentlemen, as I put the vibration on my phone, kinky, if we look at how the internet's working, obviously not any AI system is perfect. I mean, Charlie clearly discussed this pretty well, and I think most other content creators actually have. But the thing about AI content moderation is that ultimately, if AI can make mistakes when it comes to YouTube channels, right? Something so low stakes in the grand scheme of the world. We're getting to a point where, companies and militaries in the world, governments are thinking of using this kind of technology to assess battlefields and whatnot. We're getting to a point where these things are slowly deciding whether some people live or some people die. And when something can make a mistake, I think even having a margin of error of 0.01% can be too much, especially when things like life and death are on the line. But when it comes to things like YouTube, yeah, it's not something. It should be used as sort of a case study. Is, hey, if it ain't good here, okay, maybe we should pull back the vapid amount of constant investments. Now, Neil Mohan, the current CEO of YouTube, decides to go in and says he believes YouTube could see a return to the early villagey days when it was populated by a higher proportion of exuberant amateurs. Yeah, I remember the early days of YouTube. You got some YouTube poops, angry video game reviewers, all that. It really was a wholesome time on the internet. But he's like, AI will create an entirely new class of creators that today can't do it because they don't have the skills or they don't have the equipment, he says. Now, something that I always found really, really weird about the internet, too, it's like, YouTube is one of those places where the last thing I genuinely expect is, network television. Really, in order to make YouTube work, you just need to have, a little personality. You just need to be a human being. You just need to post stuff that you find interesting, because I genuinely think if people find stuff interesting, if you find something interesting and you make it look interesting to the audience, they will in turn be infected by that, is what I always notice. I made videos about fucking virtual machines on this channel. Let me ask you a question. How many of you watching actually are excited? How many of you get bricked the fuck up thinking of a virtual machine? How many of you have installed a virtual machine on your system? And no, default stuff like Hyper-V doesn't count. You probably watched me and were like, you know what, man, maybe I enjoyed that stuff. I like that video. Cool. Maybe I'll try it. YouTube is a place where you can find content for almost anything. And that's just something that I don't think artificial intelligence, especially AI slop, is needed. Now, one thing that I feel like Charlie and a lot of content creators and people talking about artificial intelligence don't really understand is, at the end of the day, all right, it's not Neil Mohan who probably wants this, okay? It's no one actually wants this. The reality is, people at the top of the chain, especially at Google, and obviously I'm not trying to say that, people don't understand this. I'm sure Charlie gets it. I'm sure everyone gets it. But at the end of the day, I feel like the finger should not just be pointed over at like Neil Moen. Not that I'm here defending Neil Moen. I think the decision making he's doing is not good. Ultimately, I think a lot of the blame kind of lies with the big companies at the top. So right now, for anybody that doesn't know, look at the numbers, okay? Follow the numbers, Mason, okay? The numbers. Ooh, the numbers are attacking you. Follow the fucking numbers. Microsoft just this year has invested billions of dollars, even in Canada. They're wanting to put $7.5 billion to boost our AI infrastructure, okay? Not just that, in 24 hours, okay, literally billions, $50 billion were put into countries like India, okay? You might be like, why? Why the fuck? Why would they do that, okay? It's because it's the biggest grift, it's the biggest bubble, it's the biggest business at this moment in time. $50 billion for companies like Google, for Microsoft, for Apple is like going to a fucking like store and purchasing like a gaming console for me or you. It's not something that these companies necessarily are thinking that much about. They've just got massive war chests to deal with. So they can spend billions here, billions there, yada 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 yada. And that's pretty much how it goes into it. Google alone has put literally $40 billion investments all the way up to 2027, all the way in Texas. And of course, they're saying the funding is going to help them build new cloud, new AI infrastructures. And more importantly, come over here, it's going to support community energy efficiency. It's going to have $30 million energy impact funds. You want to know why that is? Because a lot of these AI bros have kind of realized that everything that they're involving with has so many far-reaching consequences. Have you ever looked at your energy bill? Have you looked at it really? Like, if you live near a data center, look at your energy bill. Look at it actually go up. Not only does your energy bill go up, but you're also paying the fucking infrastructure load for some of these scumbag companies. All because they choose to buy up so much land around your area, build their mega data centers, and actually run these entire projects, all with you footing the bills of the cost, something that Canadians kind of know all too well. Have you ever actually looked at prices for computer parts? You know what I mean? Have you ever looked at how much components cost nowadays? We've looked at it together. They're up because the AI guys are out there buying all this shit because they're the only ones that can really afford to do this in massive bulk. And here's the thing, the reason why, you know, I'm sort of on the fence of is this really a bubble or not, is because both countries, the biggest countries in the world, the United States, China, so on and so forth, they have put so much money into fostering artificial intelligence that it's actually not even funny. This is not crypto, this is not NFTs. This is a business that is backed by some of the largest countries, governments, businesses in the planet. And one of the ways to justify this, to go back to YouTube, is that YouTube is one of the largest websites in the world. In fact, if we look at most visited websites in the world, just looking at a quick stats count of this, we'll just go to SimilarWeb for this instance, you'll notice that YouTube literally comes right after Google, okay? In fact, Facebook comes right after YouTube as well too. Two platforms, actually three platforms that are so AI infested that it ain't even funny anymore. So here's the thing, YouTube has billions of users every day. In fact, they literally just completely mogged television in year after year. The thing is, for a lot of these platforms, they have to stuff AI into every single feature possible. YouTube has so much AI in throughout its platform that talking about every single feature could probably take a few hours. You know, there are some people who've been like, Muda, are you removing comments, deleting them? Actually, I've noticed that I spent more of my time these days going into the comment sections for each and every video and just manually like making sure that every single video comment can get approved. There's so much AI when it comes to moderation that if you type comments on this video, for instance, I would say that there's probably a 50% chance that your comment either makes it to the board or it doesn't. It either gets thrown into the filter list, where then I'll have to go in and see because it got filtered for being potentially inappropriate, and then I have to actually highlight it, approve it, so it can show up on the board. When it comes to YouTube giving me ideas to brainstorm, YouTube has told me numerous times to make the most sloppiest videos imaginable, topics that, you know, nobody would really care about. Like, for instance, one of the actual things that blew my mind was like, Muda, talk about emulating on the Steam Deck, something that I've already done, something that I've talked about, something that many other channels have done. But because YouTube sees it do so well in the metrics, YouTube sees it do so well in its own backend, it thinks that the AI stuff will work with actual human beings. I've noticed that on the internet, AI stuff has gotten so difficult to detect that, for me, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have boomer eyes now. Like, there's a lot of animal videos that I've seen in the zoo where even I'm starting to kind of fall for it. I'm like, oh my God, is this actually real? Is it not? There's just a lot of good AI generated video. There's a lot of good AI generated audio these days that trying to identify it is like, what? Can I? Am I able to? There's this game that just got revealed at the Game Awards that I'm into called Gang of Dragon, and I'm not entirely sure, but one of the screenshots where I'm looking at the game, I don't know if the posters are literally just AI generated, okay? It almost seems like they are. Like balloon and smoking guy. I don't know if these are actually like AI generated posters, but at this point it's like it all just kind of blends in and you have this mixture of like humans sometimes with like slop AI stuff drawn into it. It's a wild world. It's getting really good. And I feel like a lot of these companies know it's getting good. And the reason why I think it's getting good is because companies like Google, companies like Microsoft, Apple, well, not really Apple in this case, but companies like Google particularly have so much access to human data that I have to kind of imagine if some of their biggest models aren't trained off of, people's information without them knowing. I mean, there's a reason why certain companies give you free unlimited data to store your photos. And last time I checked, when something is free, you're definitely the fucking product. But anyways, to go back to it, the reason why AI stuff is getting so strong and the reason why these companies are putting it into every single one of their products is because it makes the massive, like it makes them report massive amount of users. If you can report that billions of people are using AI at Microsoft because by extension billion plus people use Windows and so therefore they probably touched Copilot at some point in their life, that to an investor can be billed as like, look at how many people are using it. People love this technology. But then when you actually peek open the actual, like, Pandora's box, maybe a majority of those people are barely interacting with it, maybe using it for like slight autocorrection features, maybe to like touch up an email, or maybe they're just completely ignoring every aspect of generative AI nonsense to begin with. I know, for instance, my parents do not like any form of this artificial intelligence crap. In fact, my mom basically just doesn't believe anything on the internet at all. She just says everything is AI these days, and I can't fucking blame her, okay? I really can't. Even the boomers, in some cases, are getting tired of it. And that's just the grim reality, right? It's almost reminding me of the time when YouTube had the MCN thing. You know, when MCN sold themselves off to like companies like Disney for fucking $500 million or some crazy shit, like some insane amount. And then they open the fucking like Pandora's box and they go like, oh, none of these companies actually make any money. They just route a lot of money through them. So again, that was a complete L by them. That was a complete L at that moment, right? It was just, in some ways, you could actually, call it fraud in a way too. But that's the kind of thing that I'm seeing with artificial intelligence these days. It doesn't seem like something that is sustainable in the long term, okay? It just costs way too much money, especially for some of these larger models. And ultimately, I think YouTube, and well, not just YouTube, but a lot of these companies are kind of trying to make it work for a while and hoping that the actual, like, public doesn't wake up to the reality that these models aren't really all that and a bag of chips. Okay, I know I've been saying that a lot. It's my tick these days. But it's not that I'm one of those people that thinks all AI is necessarily bad. For instance, I'm a huge proponent of somebody that uses local artificial intelligence. I think if you have the hardware for it, you should absolutely try yourself with some local AI. I think it might open your perspective into seeing that maybe some of the big stuff isn't really all that worth it. So, about I want to say a week ago, I showcased how Microsoft had their web browsing AI. Using a local artificial intelligence, I personally feel that my AI agentic web browsing experience was actually better than some of these big companies. And I was probably using, in all honesty, a fraction of the energy and a fraction of the cost, as opposed to firing up a crazy parameter model on the internet and using it, giving up my privacy and getting much less in return. So, for instance, internet searches have gotten so bad on the internet that I just don't actually use Google anymore. I don't even use Google, and I barely use like Google Gemini unless it is to like just test something and compare it to like a local model. So, for instance, on Google, looking up like YouTube CEO AI statement, right? Immediately, if you don't have things like ad blocks, you'll probably be thrown a bunch of random links at you. You'll either be given AI overviews, which thankfully I've completely turned off through browser extensions because I hate AI overviews. They oftentimes are more wrong, in my opinion, than anything else. But of course, you'll see that immediately you'll have like a Reddit link where they kind of talk about it, a YouTube video, another YouTube video, a link to a Dexerto article be hidden behind X, and then of course, down here, a Time article from 5 days ago, which is where you might be able to find it. Again, this is me getting lucky. So what I've started to use is local artificial intelligence models. Now here, using a local AI model on something known as Perplexica, this is something that runs on a local engine for me. So you can see right over here, I actually have a bunch of local models. So for instance, I gave it a 8 billion parameter Qwen 3 vision model. So by going over here, I'm going to ask it, hey, look through, and we're going to use the speed function just for time here. I'm going to ask it, is AI, are big AI companies the reason for electricity prices rising? So again, I'm going to feed that question in, and using a local model that I'll actually show you running right over here. Actually, it's already fired up before I could bring up the program, but see, you can see that it's generating the prompts, and of course it actually spit out the prompt right over here. So instead of using Google, I was able to use the local artificial intelligence model, which was able to fire up all of these various sources right over here, and then absolutely give me all of the actual overview with the sources provided right here that I can click and read myself. Now, unfortunately, internet search has gotten so bad that using search parameters like this are kind of unfortunately the place we're going down. And if you wonder what this is known as Perplexica. Instead of paying for Perplexity or using their servers, I was able to use an open source version of it that you can easily grab from their service right over here. Now, of course, if you know how to use Docker, and I've shown you how you can use Docker, you can run this one command and it'll actually bundle everything that you need in one simple container and fire it up for you.
Now, this might be quite naive of me, but I think the only way to beat this sort of bubble is to kind of hope that these Chinese open weight models and even the American open weight models eventually get so adopted and good and efficient enough that people can realize that if you want AI in your life, you can have AI in your life without requiring the constant burden of all these data centers. I mean, connecting even the most simplest LLM to the internet and allowing it to actually do what you need to, or just having a simple reasoning model might be enough for most people. It really is just up to us looking at what we have locally and trying to make it better, as opposed to, chasing this massive AI dragon that these big companies really are chasing for, not because for the betterment of humanity, let's be completely honest here, it's for the betterment of their stock values.
Now, ultimately, at the end, ladies and gentlemen, it's not so much that companies or YouTube doesn't get it themselves. It's the fact that the people that are running YouTube, and by extension, the people that have aligned themselves so much with the governments of today's day and age, have basically made AI almost impossible to escape because they need as many people using this stuff as possible in order to keep blowing the bubble more up than it has to. But I don't know. It's one of those things where ultimately you have to ask yourself, how much do you use this? How much do you actually see other people using this kind of technology in the ways that these big tech companies envision you? Nobody is going to jump onto YouTube and start replacing content with artificial intelligence slop and be able to have it run for much longer, right? Like, that's just really the grim reality. Maybe it might be, maybe it won't. I don't know, man. Honestly, I'm not Nostradamus, okay? I can't just predict the entire future, in that capacity. But honestly, with the way the community has sort of reacted towards generative artificial intelligence, I actually don't see it in the same limelight that people like Neil Moen do. But then again, I'm also not the CEO of YouTube where like I need to be able to pitch AI shit constantly on a day-to-day basis in order to fucking keep my job. Because the company that works above me has spent billions upon billions of dollars, like their actual competitors, in order to make this pipe dream the reality that they somehow envision is going to happen. Anyways, I am out.